Hello, and welcome to Be Fit Colorado. You're listening to TradioV. I'm in studio with a couple of good guests here, Tom Borick and his wife Anna, and they're going to join me for the first segment, which we've never had. So we've never had a guest hang out for the whole 60 minutes. I hope you guys they're in good condition, I think, Joel. I don't know if you saw them when they walked in.
They look pretty healthy.
They look, ironically, huh? Right. We're halfway through winter. Did you know that?
I feel like it's just getting started.
We're halfway through.
Yeah.
I roughly speaking.
We're finally getting some snow, so it just feels like we're just getting started.
Yeah. That's exactly what I mean. I mean, these last couple of weeks too, it's been so nice and warm. It's not the typical.
Just the last couple of days, yeah.
Even last couple of days. Well, there was a couple of days last week as well. So it's very off-putting, and this is another one of those reasons why people do get sick.
Mm-hmm. You mean the temperature fluctuation?
Right.
Up and down?
Yeah, you'll notice it with animals as well.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know we're animals too, right?
Well, other types of animals, excuse me. Other mammals.
Animals proper.
Animals proper.
They did just find the mammal, or reconstruct from, I believe, archaeological skeleton, right? The mammal, the rat mammal that serves as the species that survived the mass extinction 65 million years ago, that for the most part produced the line of mammals that then produced us.
I think I read something about that today.
So we don't actually come from monkeys. So people out there who are against the common view of evolution, that humans evolved from orangutans, they can rest assured that that's not true.
Well,
we actually came from rats.
It doesn't really make sense because there's still monkeys around. Like, what happened to them?
Okay, let me explain this because my dad and I had this conversation about 5 years ago, and I think I converted him. He's Catholic, so he's tough. So you have two populations of primates, right? Higher primates. We're talking about, let's call them bonobos, right? Or chimpanzees. Either one. One group, and in fact, we didn't come from chimpanzees. We came from another hominid, right? Another type of primate that we don't have the skeletons for yet. But one day we probably will. But if you have two isolated populations in the environment, and one population is influenced by environmental factors that population A is not, population B will evolve in a different way, right? So you may have a common point on the tree of growth, but then you have this divergence. That's, in a shorthand, elementary, right? That's what happened. So you have a group of primates that somehow got isolated, or in their natural habitat were influenced by factors in the environment that were not present overall to all populations. That line produced us, and the rest of the chimpanzees just kept chilling as chimpanzees, right? So they are still around. Evolution is as proven a theory as there really is. The more we know, particularly about genetics, right? So as we looked into the deeper, the roots of our very being, the mechanism that drives our bodies to grow, the DNA actually proved that we're linked to chimps. It's just the way it is. There was a guy at Jerusalem the other day. He had a shirt that said 98% chimp. It was hilarious. That's true, right? I was like, that's a great shirt. But you don't have to believe in that. I think that there's plenty of room in the world for people that have divergent views. You can still listen to the show and not believe, that we're evolved from chimps. But that's, I think, how it worked. Okay.
That makes sense.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
Okay.
And I don't see that being, I may not 100% be on that boat, but it does make sense the way that you explain it.
And I do think that there's no, and I tell this to my parents all the time, who are staunch Catholics, and I tell them there's no reason for you to not believe that entire mechanism could have taken place at the very direction of a higher being, right? Mm-hmm. There's nothing that says that couldn't be the way it worked out. Problems arise when you say the Earth is only 6,000 years old. That becomes difficult to support. But if you say that this creation from the Big Bang or whatever it is, right, as far back in time as science can measure it, right, 13.1 billion years ago, you can start at that point and say that moment of creation was the hand of an omniscient being, such as God the Father, whatever you want to call him, Allah, right? It has that
Many
creative
names.
power has many, many names. But there's nothing against the scientific record to say that that's how it started, because nobody knows what preceded that or what caused that. There is no real explanation that's satisfactory as to what caused that initial burst of creation. So we don't need to argue about that, right? What we can do is say that science seems to be able to track us back 13.1 billion years. And we, at some point, came from a rat. So, there you have it. I don't know what rats ate for supplements back then, per se, but to segue awfully to people always ask me, to the real show, people often, I should say, ask me, what do you take? Like what supplements do you take? And so I wrote down a few of my favorites, my go-tos, and then I'm going to let you guys give me a thumbs up, thumbs neutral, or thumbs down. Got that? It's just 3.
Absolutely.
Okay. Sure. My number one supplement is water, and that may sound ridiculous, right? But you think you drink enough water to survive. I'm guessing that you do. You're still here. We all, right? We're still alive. So we've managed to take in enough water. But we live, particularly here in Colorado, for those of you who live in the state, in a really dry state. Average of about 42% humidity year-round. Mm-hmm. So this is fairly low. Unlike where I'm from in Ohio, or where you're from in Indiana, absolutely, right? Where talking about
super humid,
65-70% humidity almost year-round. So we're losing water through our skin. Drinking more water will help. I don't know that you need to drink 64 ounces of water tomorrow to prove the theory. We've also talked about how hydration takes place many, many, many hours before, right? So if I want to be hydrated for tomorrow's race, I better start drinking water now, because tomorrow morning what I drink is not going to have enough time to really hydrate my cells in a meaningful fashion. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
Anna agrees. That's enough for me.
All that medical stuff, I just kind of throw her away.
That's her area of expertise. Okay. So more water, lotion, right? Particularly for the guys. Ladies, you know this.
We know to low shop.
You know to low shop. Guys,
post shower.
I just only in the last year have I even thought about it. But that's because I'm starting to get those wrinkles, right? I turned 40 this year, so I started thinking, would lotion help, right? Reduce the wrinkles, maybe resist the oxidation process that's taking place on my very skin. And I thought, well, what's the injunction? You just got to try it. So I started trying it. Seems to help. And then I thought, well, if I'm going to do my face, right, my poor hands, what do they, chop liver? No, I got to, right? So I started doing it about once a week after a shower. Seems to really help.
Yeah. I think it's kind of like, in my mind, I compare it to chapstick. And once you start using it, you realize the dynamic effect that it's having, so you have to kind of keep using it more.
The dynamic effect.
It is. It's a pretty big difference. Do
you use chapstick, or do you?
I will not use chapstick.
Okay, I didn't think so. I bet you use like Burt's or something. I mean, we're in Colorado, so you use.
I don't use chapstick at all.
Oh, you don't?
No.
Okay.
I've given it up because my body starts to depend on it.
Yeah, and it becomes addictive.
Yeah, I don't do
have it. It gets very chappy.
Why the lips? So my body doesn't seem to be addicted to the lotion, or maybe it's becoming. Do you feel like your skin is addicted to the lotion?
I actually had a situation earlier this week where if I don't have time, if I'm running out the door, I have to skip the lotion step. It takes time to lotion up.
It seems to take time, right?
So if I go a few days without lotion, my skin is itchy and it's visibly peeling off. So I guess you could possibly say it has the same effect as the chapstick.
Yeah, but then again, I'm not huge on using lotion, and I'll do probably like once or twice a month, if that. Mm-hmm. And when I use it and then I don't use it for like the next 2 days, then you can like really feel less moisture. It's too much for me, so I don't need to do it.
You're saying I'm not even going down that road.
Are you?
I have.
Yeah.
It's too late.
It's personal preference.
I'm down the pipe now.
My wife uses a lot of lotion. Mm-hmm. I'm against it. I'm against it. I don't use chapstick. I don't use lotion.
But women are supposed to be soft, right?
Are they?
That's one of our qualities. Soft skin.
It's true. I would say women are softer than men in general, particularly emotionally.
True.
Would you agree?
I would.
I don't think you should change that.
No.
So I would encourage my daughter to be hard on the outside, tough on the outside, should say, right? But keep her softness on the inside. There's nothing wrong with that, particularly if you can protect yourself from harm's way, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm not against chicks being soft.
I'm not.
I'm not against guys being soft either, for that matter.
It
right?
shouldn't be.
I think we all guys are soft. It's just very, very well protected, if that makes sense. So you see a side of him that none of us probably even want to see, right?
Well, he's very,
but he's an English major, so you know those English
and that's
majors.
the thing. Like, I've never met a man that
They're
is so in touch with his feelings
well,
in a good way.
Let's talk about that for just a second, because when I had kids, what I did notice, number one, was that the world has kids. I didn't know that there were kids out there until I had my own. Now they're like freaking everywhere, right? I'm holding a door every time I go out for, like, everybody's pregnant, everybody has kids, all of a sudden, just because my wife turns pregnant, right? Turns pregnant, like
Just
woke up one day.
just turned
Cycle of the moon.
Jesus, right? So as I'm watching these kids, I'm starting to watch how fathers are interacting, right? Mimesis. And I see a lot of dads, lived at the time in the Wash Park area, right? And dudes are out with the
Baby Bjorn.
Yeah, the Baby Bjorn. I love that thing, right? The Baby Bjorn. They've got the Bobby joggers, and they're doing the things that would typically, right, from when we grew up in the 70s and the early 80s, that would be mom stuff, right? And so I think that one of the advantages of and I mean this sincerely, of the feminist movement has really been to free guys up based on the expectations of women, whether it be your mother, your sister, your wife, your girlfriend, to get in touch, the demand to be in touch with your emotional side and to be able to communicate that effectively, I think is probably on the male population now more so than it has been since times before medieval times, right? I don't know what it was like in the classical days. Seems to be some of that there in the classical days. But particularly in a culture like the American culture, right, where we had to fight the Ruskies, first of all, back in the 70s and in the 80s. So we had to be ready to go at a moment's notice. We kind of drew back from the necessity to always present the rough exterior. And then we got the opportunity, I would call it, to bring out some of our emotions in a safe environment, right? This has been, I think, one of the most helpful things about the feminist movement. What has shocked me about the feminist movement overall is that women still make 70 whatever cents on the dollar, right? So there are still these grave inequities that women let go. They had a profound influence on the culture. But then when you look at some of the practical applications of what they were saying, we want full equality, they stopped short. And I wonder why. I just know that if my daughter came home and said, hey, I'm going to get paid 50 grand, and I said, you know, what's the going rate? And she said 60, I'd say, you can do what you want, but no daughter of mine would take 50 when her male, right? This is right. Yeah. So I think women have to go back to work. We need you, right? We're ruining the planet, and I think that only you can stop it. I'll be totally frank, right? If it's stoppable, it's only because women care more about people, I think, than men do. Deep down, it may be the same, right? But outwardly, we have different instincts, right? Men have different impulses and different instincts.
I think it's just that's based on society and how we're raised. Like if we didn't have the society that we have, we wouldn't be pushed into this monetary system that this has to be this certain way, this has to be this certain way. We're just accustomed to this system. It's different because women have some sort of different stigma tied to them, like, and they're the caregivers and they're the caretakers. Well, in my mind, in my heart, I believe that we all have that, but because of the way the system is, we're told to be a certain way.
Interesting. I would agree with you. Based on the plasticity of so that we have this idea that not only do we influence our immediate environment, but that our immediate environment then mirrors back to us. So there was a great French poem, and you may know what I'm thinking of. I wish I could remember who it was. I believe it was a French poet. He could have been Irish. But he was describing a wagon being pulled across a bridge.
Did it have whiskey in it?
It did not have whiskey.
Oh, he wasn't Irish then.
Right.
They were croissants.
Well said, sir. Right. It was actually a giant mirror that was being pulled across, and of course he's looking at the mirror and he's seeing the stream underneath the bridge being reflected in the mirror. And the question was, what is real life, or what comes first? Do we imitate life, or does life imitate us, right? So there's always been this interplay between environment and your I guess nature versus nurture is the argument that people, or the analogy that people will make. And I think you're right that there are gender roles, and I will tell you from having 2 kids, one of each gender, that of all the things that you don't give up, it's the gender roles. So I will tell my son not to prejudge anyone based on color, not to prejudge them based on the religion that they practice, etc. You could go down the line. There isn't a way to discriminate against somebody that I would put on him. However, I would not let him call a boy a girl or a girl a boy, right? So we still from birth separate the genders. It's the one distinction that we have yet to, you've never heard anybody question it. Now you have transgendered people, right, who are trying to break into a more mainstream role in society. This is bringing it to a way background discussion. But for the most part, we still accept that there's the male role, there's the female role. We then talk about the roles and how they apply and whether they're fair, but we don't disagree that there is a female and a male identity, right? So I do think that some of it is pre-programmed. Men are seemingly better at certain things. Some women seem to share those characteristics, and so, you have the tomboys, right? And you have the guys that like to play with the girls. Eventually, it seems to sort itself out. What I'm saying is that men have been in charge of the institutions of this globe, right, for as long as we can remember. And so whether they have the real power at home or not is not the issue. Whether women have their influence is not the issue, because clearly they do. There's no doubting that. When a guy goes home, I don't care who he is, if he has a real relationship with his wife, he will have to answer for his behavior that day, right? So there's a balance, there's a yin-yang balance there, if nothing else, behind closed doors. Public institutions have been run predominantly by males, and they have in many ways freed people. We just talk about the movie Lincoln that's out, and the Emancipation Proclamation, all the good things that have come with democratic capitalism, which is a reduction in the suffering of more people than you could ever possibly link any other system to. So it's ironic now that the system that is responsible for alleviating the suffering of more people globally than any other system is also responsible for choking out the very life of the planet, right? Over greed, over just ignorance, right? A real lack of wisdom. I feel like the counterbalance there in the institutional world has not been present, and that's the female voice. You get a group of women together, and their willingness to exploit for the sake of exploiting is vastly different than what males will do, right? That's my own personal opinion. I'm sure you can measure this. And so we need you. We need you back on the horse, not for your own sake, but for our children's sake, right? I mean, we've got to stop choking the life out of the planet. The sand tars, right? This guy the other night, this is an old running joke of the show, the guy who said, talking about fracking, and I said, yeah, but they're gonna ruin the water, right? Where we're from, people actually have wells that they drink out of, and he said, well, we got to get that oil. And I said, I understand you want the oil, but we're gonna ruin the water. And he said, yeah, but we got to get the oil, right? So that's the mentality, right? The oil is a commodity that we can sell. Well, if you're going to ruin the water to get it, that's pretty unwise, right? And so I feel like the female voice, if it was back in the institutional world, or in the institutional world 50-50, that we would make much more wise decisions with the tools of power that those institutions have, right? That's my own personal opinion. Whether or not that'll happen, I don't know, but 77 cents on the dollar, right? It should be a Facebook page. We're going on strike April 1st, right? Come on. If my daughter was 18, I'd be like, start that Facebook page, because it's right. Yeah.
And it's so crazy to think about. I mean, we can go into this discussion about energy, because I'm huge on this. I'm an electrician as well, if he hasn't told you.
That's a side job.
This is
wires people's houses.
But I always think about this is
He's safe. We're
using up these things that we don't even need to use.
Right.
We have so much capacity for energy on this planet that it's not even being used. So it's just a waste. It's all about the monetary system. It's all about money, and it's terrible. I don't even want to get a kick on. I don't even want to talk about it.
Well, I think it taps into the instinct of we're afraid to be without. So the fear of loss is always going to be greater than the fear of gain, and so we by nature want to stockpile what we can for hard times, right? And so we're always going to have an inclination to overexploit when we're dealing with the base level, your survival system, right? The parasympathetic system, if you will, the body wanting to keep itself safe. It's always going to be greedy. It's always going to be its default mode is to protect itself. We'll say that, and to protect yourself is often to hoard.
Yeah, right? But if everything that you did wasn't for specifically you, I mean, I understand at this point because of the way that our system is built, then it is all about us, and we're trying to hoard as much as we can. But if it wasn't all about us specifically, but if it was about our society, I guarantee you would have more people saying, hey, well, you know what? This is going to help society. This is going to help this out. I'll sacrifice. And it would be more sacrificial to do what's best for the herd. You know what I mean?
Well, remember that the one is always nothing. It's always it's the whole that matters.
It's true.
The group. If you look at the people who seem to be the most spiritually progressed, people like the Dalai Lama, Desmond Tutu is another good example. They almost shun possessions. They just don't need them. So there's the old Chinese phrase that what the fool will seek in the world, the wise man will find inside himself, or a wise person, right? So as the fool runs around looking for the stuff in the world that he thinks or she thinks will make them happy and satisfied, the wise person sits down and realizes that all of that is already inside of you to be found. So we're trying to find it. We're trying to find it through fitness and nutrition. We'll be right back with Tom and Anna. Thanks.
Tukis will make you feel good about cleaning. Tukis are reusable dishcloths that are hand-woven with eco-friendly 100% organic cotton. Tukis, handcrafted in India, will make a difference in your home, your life, and the lives of the Indian women who weave them with dignity and pride. Working to stand on their own 2 feet, Tukis are their labor of love. Go green with the best dishcloths available. That's Tukis. Order a 3-pack for less than $10 exclusively online at www.tukis.com. That's TOOCKIES. Tukis.com.
No one loves do-it-yourself projects more than I do, but you never want to cut or drill into a wall without knowing what's behind it. That's why I choose Zircon Corporation. As the #1 electronic hand tool company in the world, Zircon Super Tools help keep me and my crew safe and out of harm's way. From stud sensors and laser levels to metal detectors and electrical wiring sensors, sturdy and dependable Zircon tools are all I use. So whether renovating or redecorating, ask for Zircon by name at your local home improvement store. And should someone say, haven't seen you in a while, tell them, that's cause every time I come by, all the Zircon stud finders go off. Just kidding. Sort of. From odd jobs around the house to those bigger fall projects where you need a helping hand, it's good to know Zircon tools are within your reach and help you get the job done safely. Electronic tools are all they make, so they simply make them better. Remember, before any wall gets...
Mahalo Hawaii Deep Sea Drinking Water comes to you from the island paradise of Hawaii, 3,000 feet below the ocean surface, where the water is naturally clean, pure, cold, and filled with healthy minerals and nutrients. The deep sea water used for Mahalo drinking water is very old. It takes between 1,200 and 2,000 years for the water to travel to the North Atlantic Ocean through the freezing Arctic currents, under the vast glaciers of Greenland, where it gathers ancient minerals that leach down from the ice. Then it flows around and back down toward the deep channels of the Pacific Ocean. Mahalo Hawaii Deep Sea, purely the best water in the world. The official water for TradioV. Log on to hawaiideepseawater.com. Mahalo.
You're listening to TradioV.com, Denver.
Welcome back to Be Fit Colorado on TradioV. Hey, Joel, we have something special today that I want to talk about. That's our first sponsorship.
Hooray.
Seriously.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah,
man.
Steve Paul down at CrossFit Denver has decided to sponsor the show as well as take me on as a CrossFit project.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I think I really won out on that one. And so I'm going to be putting some stuff up on my personal Facebook page and the BFit Colorado page about
Very
his
cool.
gym. I honestly would encourage anybody, and you guys I think have both trained there, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Currently.
Yeah, at
See, I'm feeling like I should get in there now.
let's do it.
Yeah.
I'm sure he'll let
Absolutely.
you come down for a few sessions and see if you like it. If you like it, sign you up. It's a really nice deal. I looked at some other gyms before I made that commitment, even before I made the first call to Steve to see if he would be on the show. And the philosophy at the gym seemed to be the one that vibed down with my philosophy the best. And not to be disappointed for 1 second from the moment I met him to the last conditioning session that he ran. Just really competent, really nice guy. I like the gym a lot. Do you guys go to the one on La Pan, or do you?
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, you should come down, Joel. I got a couple other friends that are thinking about coming down this week. We'll talk after the show about what your schedule looks like, and it can be a little intimidating because I think, as you guys know, the sport is quite different than what most people think of as your normal exercise gym, 24-hour fitness or Bally's or wherever they go. The moves can be really technical, but there's a few classes a week, like the conditioning class, where they don't do the Olympic-style lifting moves, which are quite technical. But because they're technical, they're really fun, and you can see how over time you could really grow into them. I think you've probably been doing it long enough, right, to know that it's like skiing. When I was taught to ski, I remember it was my ex-wife who taught me. Fantastic ski instructor. Was a ski instructor herself. I would tell her, you just gave me 6 things. I can only pay attention to 2 at a time, right? You married someone not that smart. I'm sorry. You may just be finding this out. So those Olympic lifts can be a little intimidating, but there are some classes where you wouldn't have to do that. You just do stuff like sledgehammer tires instead. And I found that I can compact my workout into an hour, warm-up, exercises, and warm down and stretching all in an hour, where I'm doing like an hour and a half at 24-hour and getting half the workout, right? Half the benefit. So for those of you who have known me as the 24-hour fitness rat, for my buddies at 24-hour fitness, if you want some last-minute instructions, get on the train because I'm getting off. I might do it for a couple more months and ease out, but I see this as a longer-term commitment, especially maybe for the next year, see what it may bring. So I'll talk to you after the show and get you down there. Yeah,
cool.
It's awesome. So back to the very beginning list, we were talking about the things to do. I don't know how the hell lotion sidetracked us, because I guess women do it and guys don't. Let me just real quick run through this list and see what you guys think. Fish oils. Are you guys fans of fish oil?
Absolutely.
Generally, yep.
Yeah, get yourself some fish oil. When you say generally, what do you mean by that?
Well, I think if you are eating a whole balanced diet and good nutrition, we'll talk about this later, but fish oils are designed to kind of supplement and balance your omega-6, omega-3 ratios. And as you start to shift away from the processed foods, that balance naturally starts to sort itself out. So,
well said. Well
all
said.
relative.
Yeah, and Tom's a minimalist. We talked about this off air, which I think is the way to approach life. The less you were saying, we're talking about pre-workout drinks, and you said, hey, if shit hits the fan, excuse me, Dad. Sorry, Dad. I promised my dad wouldn't cuss.
I'll do all the cussing. Don't worry.
Yeah, Joel can do it. Right. So if life is going to hit you with a challenge, you wanted to rely on your natural adrenaline, and not that you had to have your favorite shirt on or your special running shoes, right, to do something that
Sure.
life would, right. And
Yep.
I think that makes, strategically speaking, the most amount of sense to me. I try to approach life like that. One of the great things of doing the show and talking to folks like you is how much I learn. And I've been paying attention to this stuff for 20 years, maybe not very well, but paying attention to it. And I've made some real effort. And so I find that not so much daunting as, wow, there's so much stuff left on the table for me, like low-hanging fruit, stuff I can do that's really easy, that may make a difference in my life, that I don't have to be thinking that I'm at the end of the line and I have no other tricks left or nothing else to learn. And so it's been exciting to learn what other people have done, what you guys have done in your personal lives that has made you guys, that has at least worked for you, right? Because I think that not everything you try works. And you got to be willing to try something to have it not work, for sure. Fish oils, I will say, just to wrap that one up, if you want to know about the purity, one trick is usually to pop a cap open with a pin. I've popped a few on my shirt. You don't do it that way. Yeah, like, oh, I wonder how this ups. If you take it and you use a pin to pop it and you smell it, if it smells really rancid and fishy, probably not the best quality. It will probably smell like fish regardless, but it should smell fairly refined. Does that make sense?
Well, another way, if you are going to take fish oil, the best way to check for the quality of your supplement is to the two pieces that you're really looking for are the DHA and the EPA content.
Right.
So if you're getting a store brand or a cheap, inexpensive fish oil, it will list them, but it won't give you a value or an actual dosage.
Yeah, well said. If it doesn't tell you the DHA or the EPA milligrams, it's God knows what it is. It's very possible not fish oil. Multivitamins, we talked about this. You probably don't take a multivitamin. I'm just guessing that you don't.
I don't, but
the guy's diet is
I don't
that
think
good.
that there's I don't think there's a problem with taking it. And
right.
Eventually maybe I will
Anna,
decide
do you
to
take
take
one?
them.
I do.
Okay. Yes.
See? Mine is more vanity driven, however, because though I'm not in the looking to have kids anytime soon, I take a prenatal vitamin because it has good effects on your hair and skin and nails.
What? Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Goes
Ladies,
hand
get
in hand
yourself
with
a
the
prenatal.
lotion.
Right. Get yourself some lotion and some
Yeah.
I agree, because when my kid's mother was pregnant, she took them, and I remember looking at the bottle and I remember thinking, hell, that's a damn
Did
vitamin
you take
right
one?
there. I didn't. I wouldn't have been against it. I think you only get their prescription, I believe. Do you have a?
No, you can get them. You can get them at your local Safeway.
Get them at your locals.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get.
They don't have hormones in them, right?
They probably do.
I'd have
guys,
to look.
don't do
I've
it.
had guys ask me what will happen if I take it, and I'm like, I don't think you're gonna
Let's find out.
You'll
grow boobs or
let's
anything.
find
grow a
out.
boob.
But I'd have to look into it more.
Okay, we'll put that one on the shelf for later.
That's a good
Dudes,
one. Put that
don't
on the
take
Facebook.
the prenatal vitamins just yet. But I do remember looking at what was in there, thinking, this is a real vitamin, not the stuff that we take. But I do think that it can't hurt. That's the way I look at it. Yep. Not every vitamin is equal either. You have to do a little bit of research, I think, on the quality and the ability to absorb the nutrients, or particularly the vitamins that are in there. But it can't hurt to have an extra 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C or whatever the case may be running through your body. The great things about vitamins is they're I believe, no known cases of overdose. Right.
Well, I think essentially you'll just pee out what your body doesn't absorb.
Right, and I think Anna's right. You would just your body would just not even reject it. It would just get rid of what it doesn't need. So don't be afraid to take vitamins. Particularly, the next one on my list is the B12 complex, or the B complex in general. Bs have been known to stabilize moods. Niacinamide, we talked about get the non-flushing if you're going to take that, or get the flushing and find out why they made a non-flush in the first place. Those are always good. I was telling these guys, when my kids are about to push me over the edge and I'm really feeling frazzled, which really actually isn't very often, like 5 or 6 times a day. But when it happens, I have the liquid form, and I really like the liquid forms of almost anything. The absorption seems to be better. Would you agree with that if you're going to take a supplement?
Yeah, I think that helps.
Yeah. They make this B12 complex now, make some of it. You can get it at Vitamin Cottage. Vitamin Cottage being a local vitamin joint here in Colorado. And you stick it in whatever you want. It has a kind of a tangy taste. You put that stuff on your lips, my friend, and find out what happens. It does have a tang to it. But it will seem to mellow you out.
Will my wife want to kiss me?
I'll bet she wants to kiss you twice.
Wow.
Whoa, do you see that? He's
all right, I'm in.
Complex salts. So reduce your intake of salt, and probably in general, only because most of the salts that we're taking are either the normal table salts, which is just sodium chloride, if Morton's makes a nice light salt that has potassium chloride too, so you're getting a full salt flavor, so to speak, with half the sodium. And you know a lot about heart health, Anna. Sodium seems to be not that great for the heart if you overdo it.
If you overdo it.
Yeah. Like many things, if you overdo it, not good for you. Right?
True.
We talked about men taking magnesium citrate and zinc, and then you said what's good for the ladies too.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. So that's good for recovery, if I'm not mistaken. Again, if you can get the zinc in particular in the liquid form, seems to help. And then lastly, only because this was really important to me personally in my training from our conversation, protein powders and creatine. People will always say, what do I need to work out? And I always tell people protein powder and creatine are like the two that have been the most tested over time and seemingly will give you the most amount of results for low bang, right? They're cheap, they're ubiquitous, you can get them almost anywhere. I particularly like the creatine that comes in the pill form, so you don't have to do the loading. Loading seems to be a little obnoxious in the 21st century. But then you said something about how the protein powders are all essentially processed food, and that one of the things that we'll talk about when we talk about your company's philosophy is getting away from the refined sugars, and that essentially you're one step away from a refined sugar here, right? Or even worse, you do have the refined sugars in there, and that you just were not a fan of the protein powder in general. Is that right?
Yeah,
to put you on the spot.
Yeah, to put me on the spot. That's fair. I choose not to use it. I have used it in the past. I've used creatine in the past, and they work. They definitely work. It just depends on what your end goal is. And for me, I'm not trying to bulk up. I'm not trying to, strangely enough, I continue to be able to lift more weight without supplementing. And so it's more my own personal challenge to see what can I push my body to do just eating whole foods and just using what's available naturally. But, again, we talked about this off air as well, that if you're going to take a protein powder, the time to take it would be immediately post-workout. The challenge is just, not using it as a meal replacement or a crutch in some other way, replacing your diet.
And I think that's a good point. I never have done that. I've never been a fan of that, but I do know people who do. You don't need to be drinking that stuff in the middle of the day. You should be having a snack, a healthy snack, rather than a protein supplement. It's widely recognized that the hour after you exercise is a great window of time to replenish your body's nutrients, whether it be for your glycogen stores, particularly for protein uptake, so that you can help the repairing of the cells, the damaged muscles begin. And Anna said something. She said, I just eat a regular meal. I eat a good meal with vegetables and lean meat. Is that right?
Well, after my post-workout meal, which would consist of protein and for me a source of carbohydrates. So for me it's chicken and a yam, like a small portion, maybe 4 to 6 ounces of chicken and half of a yam. But that's real food. It's real protein. And I think, Joel, you mentioned this, that when you were trying to supplement with protein shakes, you didn't see any growth. When you actually started eating more real food, protein, you actually started to get bigger.
Yeah.
You wanted. So
and my weight gain was a lot better. I mean, I'm at like 140 now, but at that point I wanted to be 160. I was at 156, and that's where I kind of plateaued at.
And that was with more natural.
That was more natural. And when the highest I got to when I was working out, because my standard size without working out, about 140, 144 in that area, I got up to 146.
But a heavy 140.
Heavy 140 in my feet. That's why I can't jump very high. No,
I don't even know what that means, but that's funny.
It's just a joke. But with taking the supplements, I was only able to gain like 6 to 7 pounds, and then eating actual food and the breakdown in my body, I felt like it was a lot more sufficient and did what I wanted to.
And more sustainable. I mean, if you think about eating, we do it every day. We have to eat to live. You got to think about the effects that supplements have on your kidneys, especially creatine. I've never taken it as a female, but I know, I'm not super familiar with it, but I know its effects on your kidneys long term, and that's why they cycle it and stuff. But also, when you stop taking it, don't you lose?
Part of what creatine does is it allows the muscles to hold more water.
Right?
Which allows for you to look like your biceps are bigger, which is important, number one.
I'm sure for men, yes.
Ladies.
Hello. Chicks dig the long ball. You remember that commercial? Great commercial. Really setting up the dichotomy of a lot of society right there. I didn't know creatine was necessarily that hard on your system, but I'll take your word for it. Obviously, any supplement that you have to
long term, especially.
Probably.
So going back to is it sustainable?
And the thing that I found even more interesting than you saying I ate a normal meal after working out, which is not radical, but it's uncommon, right? It's not the most common at all. You said, in the beginning I didn't want to, but I got used to it. And so I think that we've all been there after a hard workout to think about a steak and a yam or whatever is your flavor of food. For me, even a veggie shake at that point would seem like just not into it. I have a hard time choking the protein down. I really do. And often I look over and it's been an hour and a half and I still have half left and I have to so you're not seemingly naturally hungry right after working out, but you trained your body.
Absolutely.
Right. And so I think that's again really important point. And you're talking to, you're a professional in that sense, right? But at the same time, you do have to put the effort in to do some things that your body may not feel like it wants to do, just like eating breakfast. I use this example all the time. I know a bunch of dudes who they just don't eat breakfast, and I ask them why, and they say, I'm not hungry. Of course you're not, because you don't eat breakfast. You're not a breakfast guy. You're a lunch guy or dinner guy. Make yourself a breakfast guy by eating breakfast.
Right. Well, you don't
just
have
a few times.
You don't have to like specifically eat something, right? You can have like a breakfast shake with whatever. You can have your greens or whatever. Just some sort of vitamin intake, something to fuel your morning.
I think that when you ingest food in the morning hours, you are cueing your metabolism for the day, right? You're saying to your metabolic system that it's time to start running the machine, right? And so that's why I started eating breakfast, was I found that I was just killing lunch and dinner and then feeling really lethargic. I started eating small breakfast, and then the small breakfast turned into larger and larger breakfasts because I would wake up really hungry, right? But now if I wake up and I'm just hungry, I'm going to eat. I'm going to search out and find some food rather quickly after I eat up. And it's only because my body has been trained to do that.
Expecting it now.
Yeah. And we talked about this, training babies to sleep at night. There's a great, if you know anybody who's working on that trick, there's a great book called Baby Wise. And the premise of the book, it's from a guy out of Boulder, actually. The premise is that you regulate their metabolism by feeding times, and you never, ever, ever cheat. And so that had a profound effect on me, because if you have a new life form in the world, a new little person, right, and the way to get them to cue their body to sleep at night, which if you've ever been around an infant, isn't their natural inclination. They like to snack all through the day. They don't like to sleep. They like to be up every day, nap, eat. If you're trying to get 10, 12, 14 hours at night, which is really, really helpful as a parent with an infant, let me tell you, the idea was you got to regulate their metabolism. Otherwise, if you're allowing them to snack and nap during the day, that at night, you can't expect them to turn that metabolic system in a different direction. It's going to be the same system that you're training throughout the day. So I thought, okay, if it's that important as a kid, so then cueing your metabolic system is really important. And that's when I really started not missing breakfast. And I probably haven't missed a breakfast for the most part in 8.5 years since my son was born. And both my kids slept through the night 14 hours at 9, 10 weeks. And to this day, same thing. They're out. So that being said, I want to talk about your guys' company, because this is a different than most folks. Your Life Extraordinary, and you guys founded this together, but you're predominantly involved with large groups of people. Am I?
Yeah, that's our focus is creating corporate wellness strategies
versus individuals, which I think people are more familiar with. Can you give me a little? You guys came from different backgrounds. Can you give me a little bit of your personal story and how you came to your nutrition or your fitness path, and how it came to dovetail together to make this business?
Sure. Well, I guess, like you, George, I was a 24-hour fitness guy.
Yeah.
Long term. 2 hours a night in the gym,
Right.
5 days a week.
Right.
My family, we have family history of obesity and heart disease and, diabetes is huge in my family. Rheumatoid arthritis is another one. And so all of these ailments I saw growing up, and I just wanted, if there was a way to dodge, the DNA bullet, how could I do it? And so I started paying a little closer attention to what I was doing, and I thought that by going to the gym 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, I could kind of alleviate some of that. And it wasn't until later, after I met Anna, and we together, I guess she found CrossFit Denver and brought me on board, but we started to pay a little closer attention to nutrition and how that played a role. So I guess, do you want to
And you would say, not to cut you off, but and you would say, and I think that you would say as well, that nutrition really is not separable from fitness. I mean,
no, you cannot work your way thin. You can't work your way thin. I think that's the biggest problem I have. I love The Biggest Loser. I think it's a great show as far as inspiration goes, but I think that they do way too much
24-hour fitness stuff.
Well, they focus so much on
on
the fitness and not on the nutrition, unless it's a sponsored, piece for a specific food.
Brought to you by Walmart.
Yeah. So and that's exactly it. And that's that's the shame in this, is that people look at that and say, man, look how hard those guys are working. There's no way I can do this, because I don't have a trainer for 5 hours a day.
Right.
And the reality is you don't if you eat right.
So Your Life Extraordinary, you got to take that idea and then translate it into a group of people. I find that people just are resistant to the idea that they have to change their nutrition. They really cling to their food. Am I right?
Yeah.
So your story, you're from Indianapolis. Rock on. I'm from Ohio, so
Midwest.
Yeah, from where I'm from, Toledo, you can see the Indiana border.
Oh,
so,
wow.
My girlfriend's parents used to drive to Indiana every month to buy booze. They were big beer drinkers.
Oh.
And talking 80 cases, right?
Wow.
I guess it was really cheap.
I was going to say, why? Why
Yeah.
would they drive to
Obviously,
Indiana?
I'm assuming they were saving money,
Okay.
but right, ostensibly. But you're from the Midwest, and then your mother. I'm preempting her whole story here, but your mother is in the medical field,
right?
Correct, and you followed her.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we kind of got into it together. She wasn't always in the medical field. She was actually a stay-at-home mom and raised us. And then when we started getting into sports, I was a gymnast. When I was younger, she actually came on and co-coached our little league gymnastics for a little bit, and then ended up being my high school gymnastics coach. So that kind of started that. And then when we graduated, when I graduated from school, I have two sisters from high school, I decided maybe nursing, and then I stepped back and said, no, I don't want to commit to that yet. And she actually started nursing school, and then I was like, well, I'm going to start nursing school.
Right.
So anyways, long story short, she didn't finish nursing school. Instead, she went back into her roots of surgical technology.
Okay.
And that's kind of how Tom and I's path collide, because we met at a surgical technology convention in Las Vegas that my mom was speaking at, that I tagged along.
Now that's a good story. For those of you out there looking for a partner, a life partner, you don't want to be on a radio show in the future and say, yeah, I remember we were hanging out down at the Gold Nugget having tequila poppers, and that's not the story. It should be something like this. So the medical conference, you two met, and I wouldn't say the rest is history, but how did you decide to do something that had to do with fitness? You had an interesting job, if I remember right.
I did. My degree was in English.
English major.
Yeah, so I got a degree in English.
This is an English major success story.
Yeah.
So, this is going to be buried in a time capsule somewhere.
For you English majors out there, everyone that asks you, you're going to be a lawyer or a teacher.
Yeah.
Well, you could also be a personal trainer and a fitness coach, right? Which has nothing to do with the degree. So I was the editor for the medical journal produced by the Association of Surgical Technologists.
Ravenously reading this stuff daily.
Well, absolutely,
right?
Absolutely, yes. Blood and guts.
On his email with all kinds of articles. Read this type thing.
Well, so yeah, once we met, she it took about 6 months. She moved out to Denver. We realized pretty quick that we had something special. So when she got here, she was looking for a fitness, something to step into. 24-hour fitness was my deal. She found CrossFit Denver and started doing that. And of course, I was immediately turned off by the cost. And it wasn't until she finally got me in there a couple weeks. I met him a couple of months later. She was telling me a story about some guys that were talking to her, and I had to, step in and make sure everything was on the up and up.
Right. Yes.
So I went in for a workout.
Yeah, survey that situation.
And they put me on smaller weights than she was using.
Right.
They made me do fewer rounds than she was going to do.
Yep.
And she still beat me.
Right.
So it was pretty embarrassing, and that's when I realized that this was something special.
I was like, hell yeah, I beat him.
We still have these competitions.
Well, that's the great thing about CrossFit, I think, is that because it is weighted for the female body and the male body, but ultimately you're counting a time or a rep total for the most part. There's a quantifiable measurement at the end. It is not, well, I think I did A work today. How many reps did you do? How much, what was your time? And so because you can differ the weights that people use, or the females and the males, you can go head to head. And I was beaten badly by a woman the first CrossFit that I did, and I was doing lighter weights than she was. She torched me. Yeah. And so I didn't take it. I was only mad for about 10 seconds, but I was 10 seconds pissed, right? But it was motivating to get in better shape, because there was no denying. I guarantee that if I threw her ass on a bench, sorry, Dad, if I threw her on a bench, I could outbench her by twice. Didn't matter. We weren't doing some static exercise, right? We were doing something that was more complex. It was functional movements, and in that arena, she was way in better shape than I was, and so that will come out when you do a workout like that. But back to your point, you found something maybe that more closely mimicked what you were used to in gymnastics, right? Who are some of the most powerful, flexible, dynamic athletes on the planet, quite frankly, right?
And gymnastics is a huge part of CrossFit. I mean, there's tons of movements that you do, whether it's a walking lunge to a muscle up that involve gymnastics technique. So, yeah, I think it was more up my alley.
Awesome. And so when did she pry you over to that philosophy entirely? You went and you checked it out. Was it just self-evident to you like it was for me?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. When you can spend 10 minutes and just crush yourself, and then, wake up the next day and be more sore than you've been in years at the gym from having done the same thing, it's eye-opening. It's real. It'll punch you in the gut real quick.
Not to speed through this, because I don't want to. We really need 2 shows with you. If you guys want to come back next week, actually, and continue the conversation, we could definitely do that. But I want people to hear about your company, because I think they may be interested in this approach, because it's not talking one-on-one with individuals. You guys go into groups of folks, 50, 100, 150 employees, right? Tell us what you do.
Well, basically, our premise is we're taking a lot of the CrossFit philosophy, which involves the functional movement, learning how to control your body in space, balance, all that good stuff. And basically, we're taking it into companies with the idea that we're going to create, obviously, an employee health structure where people are not only going to learn from us in on-site seminars. We're doing nutrition, fitness, but we also created a unique online platform at yourlifeextraordinary.com, where you can set up your own personal profile, track your food log, your exercise log, your biometrics, all your blood work, and then work one-on-one with a coach. And that's the idea, that you could do this from anywhere, do a workout, talk to a coach, and have a personal relationship, all from the comfort of your home. Right, so you don't have to meet up at the gym at a particular time. This is a way for your professional background to be an influence on their life while they're doing their own stuff on their own time with their own schedule, right? Right. Yeah. Yep. And I think that, again, like when we had, we're talking about the reflex yoga when Kyle was here. Kyle talked about how, and you may not have seen the show, but he has an online course of yoga, 96 different hour-long classes. People seem to be so busy that hooking up sometimes is really difficult. So this seems to be a fantastic way for people to maximize the opportunity that's out there to talk to people that
have a lot of knowledge, way more knowledge than me, that's for sure. Joel, way more knowledge than both of us probably put together, ironically. So tell me what it's like to go into a corporate environment, talk to 150 people. Are you trying to create a cultural shift?
Yeah, and I think the cool part about that is when you get a bunch of people in a room together that spend 8 hours a day, 5 days a week together, that's almost like a family unit, right. And so it's almost like talking to a big family, sitting them down and saying, all right, for example, our nutrition seminar is not so much, don't eat McDonald's. It's here's what happens when you put this in your body. Here's what actually creates fat. Here's what, and by educating people, you start seeing light bulbs go on, and that's when you start seeing that shift that people are willing to start giving up some of those challenging foods that you talked about earlier.
And do you feel like they're both getting pressure from the people who are looking to move forward and support?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it's an accountability thing. We were talking about this before we came. It's whether it's the fitness aspect or the nutrition. I mean, if you're spending every day with these people at work, they're going to likely, if your goals are the same, hold you accountable with what you're eating. And when you're working out, you're just like you've felt in CrossFit. I mean, you have that camaraderie and you're pushing each other. Mm-hmm. You're wanting to get that many reps or that less than that time or whatever, and you're encouraging one another. So
a lot of camaraderie.
Yes.
Now that you mention it, now a light bulb just went off in my head, because people apologize to me when I walk through the office and they have McDonald's in front of them, like they do, because I guess they feel like they owe me an apology, right? Because I used to be on people about what they eat. Do you not love yourself? You seem like normally a guy that really loves himself. Yeah, but you're eating McDonald's, so right? If you really loved yourself, you wouldn't do that, right? Even though I had Carl's Jr. on Friday, so I think that there is the natural. Yeah, I had Carl's Jr. on Friday and Duffy rolls in the morning. Stamped. Yeah, time stamp that bad boy. Duffy rolls, if you haven't had them, don't. They can't be legal. But I now see what you mean. You have all these pre-arranged or pre-programmed relationships where people do really know each other, and not only how to push their buttons in a bad way, but more so probably how to push their buttons in a good way. And so you go in and you talk about nutrition in general and fitness at the same time.
Well, they're two separate seminars, but the basic, give you the basic principles of what we do, why we do it, and how it's beneficial.
And give me a success story. Like, give me a situation where it just seemed like folks really took to it. What kind of changes could a business expect out of their employees if they really took hold of this?
Oh, I mean, it basically, you can change the entire face of your corporate landscape. I mean, it is that powerful when the whole business is involved and everyone kind of buys in.
I would assume more productive employees.
Absolutely.
And less, I would assume that there's less tension in the office, right?
Well, and people are happier. I mean,
right.
If you've never exercised, and just start by walking and see how that changes your mood, and if people are on board with each other, and it definitely helps productivity.
Yeah, I would imagine you, even if they weren't buying in but were kind of being dragged along, that eventually they would start to show some of the same improvements in their lifestyle that the people who were really gung-ho, right? Mm-hmm. Which is the advantage, I guess, of the going to a large group of people. If somebody thinks that their boss would be interested in talking about that kind of program, where would they go?
The best place to go would just be our website, yourlifeextraordinary.com, all one word.
Which is a great site. I spent a lot of time on it.
It's pretty fun. We're actually in the process of building a new marketing campaign, and if you're interested, whether for your business or for personal reasons, in reaching out and getting in touch with us, you can go to ylecontest.com. That's the letter Y, L-E contest, all one word.com. Just put in your name and email, and we'll send you some information. Right now, we're in the process of trying to create a free version of our online platform that will allow you, to log in, get your profile, do the workouts. We program 2 unique workouts every day, so there's something for everybody every day. Start tracking your nutrition, your diet log, and just kind of get a handle on it. So that would be the way to go.
Nice. Thanks for throwing that up, Joel.
Yeah,
I'm just looking at who that is. Oh, look, it's
That's
Tom
me.
lecturing somebody. Nice.
Yeah, you can't shut me up. That's autoplay videos.
Will you guys consider coming back next week?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, because there's so much stuff that we didn't even get to that I think people would be really, really interested in. We've never had a guest back twice, but if you guys think about it and we'll talk, it would be great to have you back. Again, thanks to Steve at CrossFit Denver for being the first sponsor of the show. And I hope everybody has a great week. Again, pick something really low-hanging fruit, like change your salt. Drink an extra glass of water. Don't make it difficult. Don't kill yourself. Make it something that you can easily accomplish. You do this stuff one step at a time, just like we're doing here. I'm going to maybe make some changes in when I drink my protein. We talked about, I fried several things in coconut oil this week. We didn't even get to that, right? It was awesome.
Yes.
And it's been sitting there for months.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we just actually crossed over to coconut oil.
Yeah, right. So there's so much stuff out there that is really easy to do that can have really positive effects. You just you try to get access to the people who know what they know, and you find other people who know what they know, and you're piecing it together, right, over time. We're all in this together. I think that what we're talking about, making a corporation a better place to work or a more productive environment, we're trying to do that for the whole globe. You know, we're at a time in history where people are going to look back and ask what we did at this moment in time. We're really at a tipping point, and so the more quality consciousness we can get in ourselves, the better civic person that we can be, and we're going to be called upon, I think, in the near future. So let's make it the best world we can. Be Fit Colorado, TradioV. Thank you guys so much for coming by. I hope you can make it next week.
Will make you feel good about cleaning. Tukis are reusable dishcloths that are hand-woven with eco-friendly 100% organic cotton. Tukis, handcrafted in India, will make a difference in your home, your life, and the lives of the Indian women who weave them with dignity and pride. Working to stand on their own 2 feet, Tukis are their labor of love. Go green with the best dishcloths available. That's Tukis. Order a 3-pack for less than $10 exclusively online at www.tukis.com. That's TOOCKIES. Tukis.com.
No one loves do-it-yourself projects more than I do, but you never want to cut or drill into a wall without knowing what's behind it. That's why I choose Zircon Corporation. As the #1 electronic hand tool company in the world, Zircon Super Tools help keep me and my crew safe and out of harm's way. From stud sensors and laser levels to metal detectors and electrical wiring sensors, sturdy and dependable Zircon tools are all I use. So whether renovating or redecorating, ask for Zircon by name at your local home improvement store. And should someone say, haven't seen you in a while, tell them, that's cause every time I come by, all the Zircon stud finders go off. Just kidding. Sort of. From odd jobs around the house to those bigger fall projects where you need a helping hand, it's good to know Zircon tools are within your reach and help you get the job done safely. Electronic tools are all they make, so they simply make them better. Remember, before any wall gets worked on, you'd better get a Zircon.
Mahalo Hawaii Deep Sea Drinking Water comes to you from the island paradise of Hawaii, 3,000 feet below the ocean surface, where the water is naturally clean, pure, cold, and filled with healthy minerals and nutrients. The deep sea water used for Mahalo drinking water is very old. It takes between 1,200 and 2,000 years for the water to travel to the North Atlantic Ocean through the freezing Arctic currents, under the vast glaciers of Greenland, where it gathers ancient minerals that leach down from the ice. Then it flows around and back down toward the deep channels of the Pacific Ocean. Mahalo Hawaii Deep Sea, purely the best water in the world. The official water for TradioV. Log on to hawaiideepseawater.com. Mahalo.
You're listening to TradioV.com, Denver.